Is this the real reason Neanderthals became extinct? It's a prehistoric shock. Well, we've had various examinations of anthropology. We've even found ancient skeletons. We have one in northern Greece called Petralona, which is at least 8 to 10,000 years old, which means that it's pre-flood skeletons there. But the Neanderthals are believed to have become extinct about 40,000 years ago. And the Neanderthals became extinct simply because they were, quote, in the wrong place at the wrong time, as opposed to being wiped out by rampaging modern humans. This is what a paleoanthropologist claims. This is by Kieran McGrath on Express UK. We know we've even had, for example, great earth changes, volcanic eruptions, comet impacts, asteroid impacts. The impacts in the northern hemisphere were supposedly what wiped out the Paleo-Indian Clovis culture. Now, Professor Clive Finlayson, he's the director of the Gibraltar Museum, located near Gorham's Cave, is filled with a treasure trove of Neanderthal fossils and artifacts. And he has spent his life studying mankind's cousins, Neanderthals that is the subject of a recent BBC documentary. He was interviewed for that, The Neanderthals, scientific name Homo neanderthalensis. And they lived all throughout Europe and southwest Central Asia from about 400,000 years ago up to 40,000 years ago. Gorham's Cave is one of the last known habitations of the Neanderthals in Europe. And together with Vanguard Cave, Hyena Cave, and Bennett's Cave, forms Gorham's Cave Complex, which is designated currently as UNESCO World Heritage Site. Now, he was discussing breaking from Gibraltar Literary Festival. He presented his latest book there, The Smart Neanderthal. Professor Finlayson told Express the scientific community was increasingly accepting them as members of the human family, with preconceptions once held to be facts now proving to be outdated and wrong. At least the idea that the Neanderthals were the victims of genocide carried out by modern humans migrating out of Africa. Professor Finlayson said a lot of modern human populations also went extinct at that time. You've got small populations, climate impacts, I think, were very substantial, and these people happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time, he says. They happened to be in Eurasia at the height of the Ice Age. So obviously that's that impacted them. Obviously, how can you survive if you don't have proper heating? Now he says we think that modern humans who were probably in Africa moved in and took their space, whereas the original view is that modern humans came out of Africa and wiping Neanderthals out. We see it more as filling a vacuum left as a result of an extinction caused by climate-induced factors over a protracted period. And he goes on to explain, the one example I gave is if you understand modern humans. They were in the Middle East 100,000 years ago. They got to Australia by 60,000 years ago. But Europe around the corner, they did not get to until 45,000 years ago. I don't understand that for the life of me. If they were in the Middle East, it would be very easy to get to Europe. First of all, the Middle East was connected, land connections always, through Turkey, and from there to the west, all through into Europe. So why would they go to Australia when that was so far down, where Europe was so close to the Middle East? Anyway, that's one of my comments. He goes on to say, I think it's because Neanderthals are there. They're probably holding them back. It's a twist in the story. Maybe these people are not that dumb. They are on home territory. They are good at what they do. And it's gradually, as they start to shrink in numbers for other reasons, that we are filling up that space. So this BBC documentary, for which Professor Finlayson was interviewed, The Neanderthals Meet Your Ancestors, saw Andy Serkis, famous for his portrayal of Golet in The Lord of the Rings. He was transformed into a Neanderthal man with the help of cutting-edge motion capture techniques. And Professor Finlayson said, I was pleased with the results, but I still felt I'd try to find a middle ground. So he felt the program tended to overemphasize limitations of the Neanderthals in comparison with us, with Homo sapiens, us modern humans. There's a controversy about whether humans are cognitively superior to Neanderthals in every way. What these caves have been showing is two things which are changing with work on Neanderthal, he says. One is the work on DNA. We now have a complete Neanderthal genome. And the other is understanding their behavioral capabilities. Now, when you look at Neanderthal compared to modern humans, of course, they were shorter. They were more bulky. They had a lower cranium. In other words, their forehead was almost non-existence. They had a lower brow bridge, larger noses, large shoulder joints, larger than today's humans, larger, broader rib cages, larger elbow joints, broader hips, shorter forearms, larger hip joints, larger and thicker patella, that's the knee bone, shorter and more flattened tibia, and larger ankle joints as well. And he says what we've shown over the years is that they were exploiting food resources. We found evidence of them ingesting not just shellfish, but the shells butchered, the seals butchered, tuna, birds. There's 161 species of bird species we found identified as fossils in those first two caves. We've shown that they were catching birds for food. They were roasting pigeons and also catching things like golden eagle. We think the feathers were intended as jewelry. We've even found an engraving which some people have called art. A question put to me recently was where Neanderthal, were they as intelligent as us? And my point was we'd have to start defining what intelligence means. But what I can tell you is that these features of behavior, which were the hallmark of modern humans under evolution, were found in Neanderthals. So from our point of view, Neanderthals were as human as anyone else. They may have had differences, which we can attribute to cultural differences. The idea of modern humans painting caves, well, there are many caves in different parts of the world outside of France where modern humans did not paint the walls. Now, I think that painting walls are beautiful, animals, trees, fish. This was also going on definitely in ancient Greece. Every single room was painted inside. And also some of them were also painted on the outside as well. Now, so he goes on to say, so this is that a mark of being modern, painting the rooms inside. And he goes on to say Neanderthals we now know engraved. There was some controversial discussion as to whether that's on the fringe of art. So you either change your definition of what it means to be human, or you bring them into the family. To illustrate this, Professor Finlayson cited the fact that research has indicated between 1% and 4% of all non-sub-Saharan African genomes derive from Neanderthals, including his own. He said most people of Eurasian origin carry Neanderthal genes. That's us, of course. They could not have seen each other as that different if they were fully interbreeding. For us all to carry Neanderthal genes, it could have been a one-off event. It must have been a regular thing. So they didn't see themselves as that different from us. Technological breakthroughs may one day offer possibility of bringing the species back using sophisticated cloning methods, but Professor Finlayson does not believe that would be a good idea. During the course of the BBC documentary, he was asked whether he would have liked to meet a Neanderthal. He said, my first reaction was, yes, of course, I'd love to, but then I paused and I said no. I said no because if our recent history of the last few hundred years of contact with Aboriginal peoples is anything to go by, we would end up putting them in reserves and in cages or doing something to them, so it's probably best not to meet them. And Professor Clive Finlayson, he says, if you look at the list of World Heritage Sites, which is now well over 1,000 sites worldwide, there are only 2 representing Neanderthals. The other is Mount Carmel in Israel, which was classified in 2012, and we are classified in 2016. Clearly part of this because there are many more castles and cathedrals than Neanderthal sites for UNESCO to have as World Heritage Sites. But what it does show is the importance of this place in terms of our understanding and potential future research. Many of the caves which were Neanderthal were excavated in the early 20th century, and there's nothing left there. So to have these 2 gems, there is so much potential for further research, which is what we're doing. The anecdote is when UNESCO were discussing the award, they were concerned what would happen if scientists kept digging. To convince them, I did a quick sum. I said, well, look, if we calculate what there is left there now in terms of volume of material that we know of, there may be more, and the rate at which we excavate it would take another 800 years. We have seen for a long time that we will not see the end of the project. The project will continue, and it's nice to see that with UNESCO. So that's the level of importance. There's nothing in Europe or nothing to do with Neanderthals other than possibly in caves in Israel, which has so much, not just actual information already published, but potential for more information in the future. So that's just fantastic and great news. By the way, for all of you who would like, there are many universities that do ask for volunteers to dig in Israel, either anthropological digs or archaeological digs. Most of the universities in the USA, also the UK, even Europe, Czechoslovakia, for example, have recently been digging and finding fantastic things as well. And you can get in touch with them, volunteer, they pay your room and board, and you can have the satisfaction of being an amateur archaeologist or working under a professional archaeologist in this area. If I had time, I would do it. Anyway, have a very beautiful Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year to all of you. Thank you for your support. If you'd like to join me on my Patreon account, you will hear content not covered by mainstream media. These riveting stories will be based on my research, and I will state my opinions and give my personal insight on diverse and controversial subjects and world events not covered by mainstream media, and not supported by YouTube guidelines. So whatever I have on my Patreon, most of those will not be on my YouTube channel. Please consider becoming a member today. More of the most significant and important videos will be on my Patreon channel. Your support helps me to continue my research and keeps this YouTube channel alive. And we depend on your support, your generous charity, because we help economically challenged families here in Athens, Greece, in Kapota, and we also help the young generation with university tuition and the community around our church. Thank you.